happens. All right, very good. Chris Christie has been praised and vilified in the last week. A new federal investigation is unfolding about whether he misused Hurricane Sandy funds. Is he finished in New Jersey or have his fortunes turned? Man, it's been a mixed bag for the big man.
He's having a rough go of it. But this latest thing is pretty great, this $25 million Hurricane Sandy campaign, not because it's outrageous and unusual, but because it's totally routine. It's what politicians do every single day. You live in California when Arnold Schwarzenegger was in every single tourism Come to California ad and things like that. Politicians are always in the business of getting reelected, so they're always going to magically reappear in those ads paid for by federal dollars to come back to the Jersey Shore and visit one of these days. It's a great reminder.
And that was part of the Sandy Kitty, was putting some money in there so the governor could be there. You know, here's a clip from Stronger Than the Storm, Broken Like the Wind.
The Jersey Shore is open.
You bet it is. We're stronger than the storm.
I'm going to rat out.
I'm tearing up. Hold on.
I'm going to rat out Camille here. He was totally rocking to this next to me. But that's
you know,
good.
Camille, here's a little piece of trivia. Originally, the governor and his family were not going to appear in the costly TV ads. It was going to be either Bon Jovi or Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would have liked to see either of those two gentlemen in the ad. Actually, I don't care so much. Like, this story is a little frustrating for me because there is all of this outrage about it, and Matt and I had sort of opposite reactions for exactly the same reasons. This is so typical. Like, you should totally expect this from politicians. There is still this pervasive notion that they're out there working for us, doing the people's bidding.
No, the people's
and
work.
that is not what they're about. They are people, they're petty, they get it, they're small-minded at times as well. They may do some noble things on occasion, but things that we do that are great are the things we do together voluntarily, the economic means, not the political means, which is always force.
All right, so Basil, is this story a big deal, or is this just Frank Pallone trying to heap some more on now that he sees that Christie is sinking?
There's just one part of it that's a really big deal. I agree with everything you're saying. Look, I remember after 9/11, you had these fantastic ads trying to get people to come back to New York and shop and support New York.
The New York Miracle, Rudy Giuliani.
And Rudy Giuliani was in some of those ads. I think the difference here is that there was a bid to do these ads. That original bid was $2 million, and when Christie wanted to be in it and the folks that were bidding said no, he decided he didn't want to go with them, and he's paying more than double to do these ads to have him in it. So I'm wondering why he insisted that he be in these ads in a political, in a re-election year. That's my issue.
He said he didn't insist that they came to him.
And now the production company, in their defense, the production company is coming forward saying the ads were never meant to star Christie in the first place. That's not how we pitched them. That was later on. Brooke.
Stronger Than the Storm. I mean, it's catchy. Basil, you said it right. There's two issues here. It's why did he pay so much money, $4.7 million for a 3-minute ad? And then why did he appear in it, which was really bad judgment because it was campaign season, and there was definitely rules and regulations attached to this money that said you can't use it to campaign. So again, just bad judgment.
All right, so what's worse, the Hurricane Sandy potential misuse of funds or Bridgegate?
I think Hurricane Sandy, because, you know, if we take what Christie says, you know, at face value and believe him, he's just mismanaged his staff. But, I mean, this is serious. This is a lot of money that could have been put to good use in other ways.
All right, well, it always is, especially if government's involved. It may all sound like doom and gloom, but we at the Independents, we are optimists by nature, and we've got an idea that will solve Christie's transportation problems. We need a plan. We have a plan. Here's the plan. Matt, what's the plan?
The plan
is a good plan.
Get rid of the Port Authority. Why do we have this weird bi-state organism that somehow owns JFK Airport and this bridge over here and this tunnel over here? It's been around for 90 years. It's a source of corruption. Matthew Iglesias at Slate says get rid of it. Ira Stoll at Reason says get rid of it. Get rid of it. Privatize it. We shouldn't have the government owning bridges and tunnels and things that you can pay tolls for.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think it would probably work more efficiently. The system of bridges and tunnels. I mean, we have horrible gridlock and obviously corruption to go along with it.
And airports. If you reduce the amount of power the politicians have, they can abuse it less.
Oh, I love abuse. I mean, when it's self-inflicted. A new book outlines the inner workings of Hillary's 2008 presidential undoing. And when the trail ran cold, she made a list, a really detailed list of enemies who were given a numerical score from 1 to 7, 7 being the worst. Patrick Leahy, Chris Dodd, Ted Kennedy, they were all on the list. John Kerry was unlucky number 7. And don't even mention Claire McCaskill. That gives me the pea shivers on her behalf just thinking about it. So, Basil, you worked for Hillary. Did you help craft the list?
I am not on it. That's the first thing I checked. No, but you know, this is a funny story to me because I don't think they actually engage in this kind of retribution. That's a Chris Christie.
No.
That's a Chris Christie thing. That's a Chris Christie thing. Right. They don't really do this. So they're never going to forget the past. They're not going to forget that. But to actively be engaged in seeking revenge against their enemies, they don't do that.
That doesn't sound like them at all.
But they don't do
that.
But you're not saying they weren't keeping score.
I would keep, look, I ran for state senate in Upper Manhattan and Harlem, Washington Heights. I gained a lot of friends and I lost a whole lot of friends in the process. I remember exactly who I lost in this process. I will never forget that. Would I engage in a day-to-day punishment of those individuals? No. And I don't think they do that either.
Or Count of Monte Cristo kind of stuff.
Yeah, kill them with kindness.
Or smother with a pillow.
Obsessing over this sort of thing without actually.
It could be therapeutic for her. I can just see her, you know, taking out her anger, making lists, numbering everybody 1 to 7.
Why was Claire McCaskill in tears after she admitted on TV that Bill Clinton's a great leader, but she doesn't want him near her daughter? I think that's pretty
afraid of the Clinton machine.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the Clintons don't have to exact revenge. They have MSNBC and they have CNN to do that for them. I mean, look what happened when people raised legitimate concerns about Huma Abedin, who is deeply connected. Her family is deeply connected to the Muslim Brotherhood. Anybody who says that gets, you know, tarred and libeled all over the media. The Clintons don't have to do anything. The media does it for them.
I saw Anthony Weiner in a bow tie selling bean pies.
Huma Abedin is a great friend, and you will not find a more committed public servant. I have to defend that.
But her family is the Muslim Brotherhood. And the question is, regardless how awesome Huma Abedin is, why does she have security clearance, and why does she have the ear of Hillary Clinton? And why is it that anyone who asks these questions is slandered throughout the media?
I don't know. I will just say this: like, I got some really questionable people in my family, and I would not get anywhere near even bottom secret clearance because of them. But I don't think that I should be held accountable for that.
But Huma Abedin took Hillary Clinton to speak at Dar al-Hikma University, which was funded by one of the top terror financiers, at which the Muslim Brotherhood sat. I mean,
it sounds like Huma Abedin is a member of the Pentaveret and now has to be the Sextaveret, which we will get into on a later show. All right. Your panel. Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon had a plan for peace in the Middle East, but then he went into a coma for 8 years. He died this weekend, but did that plan die with him? There has to be a path forward in the Middle East, but is John Kerry the man to bushwhack this troublesome territory? Brooke, what do you think?
I think that the only solution to peace in the Middle East is the Arabs should stop teaching their children to kill themselves for the sake of jihad. We already have 2 Palestinian states. We have Gaza, which the mainstream media refuses to recognize as a Palestinian state run by a terrorist group. We have Jordan, which is 80% Palestinian, ruled by a Hashemite king. And we have the Palestinian Authority operating in the West Bank that is teaching innocent Muslim children on a daily basis through their school textbooks, their television programs, their media, to take their own lives for the sake of jihad. That is the only way we will have peace, is to end the incitement to violence.
I'm getting the sense that you don't like the Muzzers.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I'm just from the Huma thing of this whole. I'm just getting. I'm a psychic, and
what is
there's voices
Islamophobic about advocating for the human rights of Muslim children? Are you for Muslim children being taught to kill themselves as suicide bombers? Is that such a controversial position that's Islamophobic?
No, but I don't think that's the only choice there is. I think what you are doing is putting forth a false idea that it's either you teach children about jihad, or
you teach them to grow up and become lawyers and doctors. I risk my life.
Is that the stated policy of the Palestinian Authority?
It absolutely is. In fact, I made a documentary film about it. It was awarded by the United Nations as the best documentary film in 2006. I spent 2 years at great risk to my own life, interviewing terrorists, interviewing children who are caught attempting to blow themselves up.
No, it's brutal. I agree, but it only speaks to the fact that it's such a mess, and whatever has happened is not working, and there's so much bloodshed and there's so much strife, And there has to be a way. I mean, I guess my point is there has to be a path to peace.
Yes, you stop
I don't think we found it
children
yet.
to engage
There
in
is-
war. That's
listen,
the path to
What's
peace.
wrong with the two-state solution, Beth?
I don't think there's anything wrong with the two-state solution. What's problematic right now is that you have leadership there that isn't really set on that idea right now. And even at the funeral of Ariel Sharon, you had a lot of leaders sending these subtle, not so subtle hints to Netanyahu to say, you've got to move this peace process along. Joe Biden's been pushing it. John Kerry's been going to Israel and pushing it. And the question is, I don't know if there are a lot of folks in Israel, but I don't know if the leadership right now is set on doing that. And at the point where there might be, I'm not so sure that the Palestinian leadership is going to be at the same place by the time that happens.
Doesn't the phrase peace process, and I know this sounds horrifyingly cynical, but I was just thinking about this with Ariel Sharon dying because he sort of thought he was dead. He was gone for so long. Peace process sounds like an anachronism from a time when there was actual like shuttle diplomacy happening, negotiation, and there seemed to be some kind of hope. And I don't know where you draw that line when that happened, 20 years ago maybe, or 25 years ago. It doesn't feel like there's anything like hope on the ground. I mean, and there's the sense that everyone wants America to wave the magic wand and bring the parties together and forge a solution.
Well, I guess maybe that's my naive feeling is that there is an algorithm. There has to be some sort of formula. Something has to work. John Kerry seems to be making some progress. Is he the guy?
I think the problem, it's not John Kerry, it's Warren Christopher, it's everybody who's beat their head against the wall on this problem. You can't just solve an intractable problem. That's at root issue.
I mean, is it intractable? But do you just exist with war and intractability for eternity?
You can't because it's inherently unstable.
Okay,
Right.
so what do you do?
I think you have to completely remove yourself from reality to think that an American shuttle diplomacy can come and all of a sudden wave their wand and the Islamist terrorists who have been blowing themselves up for the sake of jihad are all of a sudden go, okay, we recognize the state of Israel. We think Jews have a right to exist.
It's really strange to me that we're having this one-dimensional conversation.
What's one-dimensional?
Well, here's the one-dimensional side of the conversation. We have been Israel's steadfast allies for a number of years that we have been trying to shepherd along this peace process. The reality is that I think our steadfast support of Israel has at times made us ignore the fact that their hands are not clean in this either. When we look at the settlements, when we look at people that are being pushed out of their homes, I haven't heard you mention that. That certainly might be a motivation. That certainly might be a motivation for even what is bad or egregious behavior. And the reality is that here's my final point, and it's not really about that. It's that the United States has been involved in this situation for decades, has not necessarily helped things along. In fact, in my own opinion, I think that we are actively harming the situation by helping to prop up a status quo that is unsustainable.
I agree with you on that last point. But you need two people to make peace. The Israelis want peace. I don't know if you've been to Israel, if you've been to the West Bank. The Palestinian people themselves, who I've worked with, who I have friends I co-produced my movie with, they want peace too. It's the leaders of the Palestinian Authority and Hamas that go on a daily basis and declare a state war. They want to annihilate the Jewish people.
I mean, okay, but then maybe the solution, and maybe this is the final point, maybe the solution is you have to have a new generation of people who see technology, who see peace, who see a world outside of them, who have to outlive these guys.
Right. 100% agree with you. And we also have to stop funding schools that teach innocent Palestinian children to kill themselves. We fund UNRWA schools to the tune of $344 million. I can give you a textbook from that UNRWA schools. It teaches the child to go shed their own blood for the sake of jihad. That's what those textbooks that we're funding teach. If we're serious about a peace process, we have to stop funding schools that are raising the next generation of terrorists.
Okay, last point, Basil, really quick.
No, just that to your